right, everybody, welcome out to the Log Room Guys Craft Beer Show. It is Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022. Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, well, not as always, as sometimes with me, is Mr. Matt Potenski. Say hello, Mr. Matt Potenski.
Hello, from the non-beer samurai.
The non-beer samurai. How the hell are you tonight, sir?
Not bad, not bad. Doing great on March 22nd, which is UN World Water Day.
UN World Water Day. Yes,
and International Day of the Seal.
It is International Day of the Seal. I'll throw that up there really quick.
All right, John, what is a group of seals called?
A group of seals. It would be a pack of seals?
Nope.
A band of seals?
Nope.
A gathering of seals?
That was 3 strikes. So I'm going to tell you that. Well, most people call them a herd, or you can call them a raft.
A raft of seals.
Yes.
There you go.
There's your educational moment for the day.
There you go. It's pretty good. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Matt Potenski is with us, filling in for the Samurai. He's on temporary assignment tonight. Let's put it that way. Hanging out with his daughter, actually, spending some quality time with his offspring. So he'll be back with us next week. This will happen again in April too, but we'll get to that later. We got a couple comments already. Mr. Brian Altschul wrote in anti-samurai. You're the anti-samurai. Of course, he spelled it like you would too, with leaving a letter out. And he said a herd. Yeah, he knew.
There you go. That's
there you go. A herd of seals. There you go. Is it a herd of seals or a herd of seal?
It's a herd of seals. Yes.
Seals. So there is like a plural. It's not like deer.
No.
It's seals. You can put the S on the end.
You can say seals.
Gotcha. All right. Anyway, so you're not eating anything tonight because Samurai normally starts the show with eating something.
Sorry, I'm just drinking tonight.
I've got one Sunchip left, so I'll do this in honor of him. There you go. There you go, Dave. That was for you. Put it back over here. Anyway, so we got a good show for you tonight. We get going right now. We have a very special guest in the New Jersey beer scene on the show with us tonight. Why don't we bring him on right now? What do you say?
Let's bring him on.
Sounds good to me. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nick Jiorle. Am I saying it right?
Yeah. That's as good as they get.
There you go. Owner and well, on the website you're the owner.
Yeah. It's a combination of owner and janitor.
There you go.
Because I get to call the shots, I still get to scrub the toilets like I did this afternoon. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's all part of it.
Nice. So the owner of Last Wave Brewing in Point Pleasant, New Jersey. How's everything going this week for, in general?
Oh, yeah, I mean,
in Point Pleasant. How's Point Pleasant this week?
I mean, the weather's been surprisingly nice. Usually you get like 1 week of, spring weather to make everyone think it's nice. It's going to be nice. And then it goes back to being,
the good old
cool and cold. But we've had a pretty nice run of weather. This weekend was really great. A lot of stuff downtown. And yeah, we've been jamming. We're getting ready for our 5th anniversary is actually coming up in May. So we're kind of planning that. We got some interesting collabs we're talking about doing. We got some releases and, some different things we're working on. Kind of refreshing our can labels, can design. Now we're hitting 5 years old. It's time to, take some of the stuff we love and just, spruce it up. So that's the kind of stuff we've been working on. Some exciting stuff for us. To think it's been 5 years this May is it's a shock even to me and Bert. So
that's
yeah. I mean, it's flown by pretty much though. I remember being there, I think pretty much the first weekend you guys were open.
Yeah. We met Matt very early on in our journey there. But yeah, sometimes it feels like 1 year, sometimes it feels like 20 years. So it's it depends on the week. But right now, yeah, it's exciting. There's a lot of cool stuff where we got in the works, and we're always obviously being down at the beach. We're always looking forward to summertime. So it's March, so that means we're thinking about summer as brewers. We got to get going on that stuff. So.
Well, more on that later. I'll bring something up that I wanted to. We'll talk more about that later. But on that note, let's dial it back for a second before we get a little bit more into talking about the brewery. Let's start off like we do at every show with the guests, asking the same question. What is that you can remember? What's the first craft beer you can ever remember having?
Um, it was a Wavy Gravy Ale by Lagunitas. So this is going back about 15 years now. And the reason I bought it, one of my favorite musicians is Frank Zappa. And on the 22-ounce bomber was a giant picture of Frank Zappa. And I was like, you know what? Might as well give it a shot if Frank Zappa's on it, even though Frank Zappa, as many people may or may not know, never did drugs or drank alcohol. Um, which, if you've listened to his music, is even more surprising. But seeing him on the label, I grabbed it. Lagunitas is still one of my favorite breweries, 15 years later, but it was him that got me, I guess, to try it. So it's funny. I think it's still at my parents' house, that bottle somewhere.
That empty bomber, really?
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that was, if I remember correctly, that was pretty good beer.
Yeah.
So that was the first one you had. That's pretty good. I think that was the first time that's the first for that one on the show.
Yeah.
That being the first beer. So
yeah, it's going back a little bit for
just a bit, yeah.
craft beer drinkers.
What first got you into? I mean, other than drinking that beer, what first got you into the industry side of things? What first got you into,
Yeah, so it's actually interesting. So that was when I went to school I minored in journalism. And one of the classes I had to take was an online journalism class. The teacher was very cool, very interesting guy. And, he allowed us to cover any topic we wanted. It just had to be news based. It couldn't be opinions. It had to be, very traditional news, what, where, when, why. And I just turned 21. So I chose actually the New Jersey craft beer scene, which was a lot different, like I said, back in 2007. But, doing that, I kind of did like a weekly beer review. I had a blog essentially, which, it sounds outdated now, which is crazy to think about. But I did like monthly beer reviews. I went and interviewed the ordering managers. I went to Rowan, and there was actually a couple really good liquor stores that carried craft beer down there, Monster Beverage and Hops and Grapes. They, like I said, going back 15 years, they had pretty long selections of craft beer, individual bottles. So I got to interview those guys, compare and contrast. I got to meet Gene and Robin from Flying Fish down there a long time ago. They took me through the space. I think I covered the second or third Atlantic City Craft Beer Festival, which was a lot different back then. But, kind of doing it journalistically, it allowed me, especially as a college kid, to go in and, kind of look at this analytically. And I was studying, other beer reviews, reading about how they describe beer, and then getting to meet people in the industry, kind of showed me the world of, how different craft beer was, compared to other industries where you meet these interesting people willing to work together to help each other out. It was, obviously the craft, like I said, there was, only a handful of craft breweries in New Jersey back then. But, that was kind of my intro into it. And then from there, it kind of blossomed into, a hobby. Even once I was done with that class, I was hooked on the taste. So,
sure.
I love exploring new things. And that was really, like I said, eye-opening to me at a young age. And then being able to, once I graduated, have a little more disposable income, it grew from there.
Sure. That's awesome. That's a great story. I like that.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say we should open beer. And I think you're already drinking, Matt.
Yeah. Sorry to ahead of you guys.
Nick, you got something open already, or?
Yeah, I emptied my glass. I might have to go get another one.
Go grab another one really quick while Matt says what he's drinking. There you go.
Yeah, let me get
guys. I am drinking River, which is a black lager from Suarez Family Brewing.
Nice.
In upstate New York. And even though it's a nice dark black color, it's still nice and crisp and light and really easily drinkable. And honestly, I'm loving it.
I've heard that's a good beer.
Yeah.
Birdie told me. But I'll be actually drinking, also from Suarez, Saunter. It's a dark mild.
Yep.
And
also a good beer.
I got this from the same place I got the River. So
yeah, surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. So haven't had this yet, so I'm going to give it a go. It's looks delicious. So take the with the obligatory picture really quick here.
Got to get that check in.
Got to get the check in. There you go. All right. Well, cheers before he gets back.
Cheers.
Cheers. And thanks for this beer.
Yeah, no worries. Enjoy it.
Whew.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
So I got it's a newer brewery in Philadelphia called ARS.
Okay.
If I can hit that up.
There it is. Where in Philly are they?
They started in South Philly. I think they just opened another location in Kensington. This is called Wolf Songs. It's a hazy India Pale Ale with Citron Mosaic. So it's my first time having it. So we'll see.
See how it
Smells
is.
good though.
Sounds like a good combo. It's a combo that's pretty hard to screw up.
Yeah. That's one. That's a slam dunk usually.
Yeah.
So, cheers. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers.
Absolutely, Nick. Cheers.
Yeah, that'll do.
There you go. Brian Alt had a question. I'll throw we'll throw it up there and see where it goes. He said, "Do we have a Coastal Wave collab in the future?"
Yeah, I mean it seems like it would fit, obviously style wise. So
Yeah.
It's we love getting together with our neighbors and doing stuff, especially guys like you guys. So yeah, I can see that happening for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a definite. We'll just have to plan it and figure it out. So anyway, this is phenomenal, by the way, Matt.
Oh, the Dark Mild.
The Dark Mild, yeah.
Yeah,
It's from it's a.
We're both. You were running out. We were both drinking Suarez. Great beer. So I have the black lager.
Oh man,
the Dark Mild that I gave him. So
that is hard to go wrong with. I do love some Suarez.
Yeah, I was up there a couple weeks ago and
doing
just takeout, but it was like I have no problem taking a bunch of their beer home. And
yeah. No, it's tough because
so
we were hoping. We went up to Vermont earlier in the year. We go right up, past Albany. I always love hitting up there. We were hoping to get up to one more snowboard trip this year, but like you said, spring came early, so I don't know if we're gonna make it up there. We were hoping to get up to Jay, which would have opened up quite a few of those great breweries up north. But
where'd you go when you were up in Vermont? When you went up?
Last time we went to Magic Mountain, which is a small independently owned mountain in southern Vermont. Very cool place. I'd never been there. Very old school. Couple double chairlifts, and that was it.
That was it.
Just an old school ski resort, but like really fantastic natural terrain. And then we got to go out to Idaho for a week and chase some really good snow out there. So that was pretty exciting. But it was like I said, it was kind of short. I'm one of the few people that wishes for a longer winter, I guess, because that's when the waves are the best, and that's when the usually the snow is falling. But
gotcha.
We'll take it.
There you go. Well, you got another kind of wave coming up soon too. So, so on that note, why don't you explain to everybody that may not know exactly where you got your name for your brewery from, what it means. So.
Sure. Yeah. So Last Wave obviously is started by myself and my business partner Bert and Danny, a married couple. We started brewing down in Brigantine. We used to live right outside of Atlantic City in Brigantine. Both myself and Bert are both big surfers, year round. And it's kind of one of those things. We started brewing because when there wasn't waves, if it was flat, we needed something to do. We started brewing. And we always saw a connection between those two things. They're both, communities. I think any passion is like hard to define, right? That's I think the definition of passion is, something you pursue without reason. Like, is there a reason? Would most people say, yeah, that sounds like fun, getting up and, surfing in 30 some degree weather,
right.
Getting up before, the sun comes up, to do that. But, those things it's something else we're very passionate about, and it holds on to you, and it helps balance us. So we always, in surfing, eventually you have to come in. Calling out your last wave is kind of like kind of a curse, or a jinx, whatever you want to call it. So generally people don't want to say that. The reason is you want your last wave to be the best wave of your session, because that's, that's the one you got to hold on to, till the next time you get to go out and surf. So we kind of look at beer the same way. Beer is, it's not just drinking. Having a beer with somebody is, kind of a session in and of itself. So, we kind of don't want to make our beer, kind of have the same effect where, each beer should be, good enough that you remember that, not just that beer, but the company you had with that beer, until the next time you get together and get to relax with some good people and drink some good beer. So that's kind of the inspiration behind it. That idea of like, really taking the time to make sure this, what we put in a can or a glass, is going to stick with you in a good way.
Nice.
That's excuse me, I just took a sip there. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and it same thing like you said with brewing. It definitely is the passion on that side. But who would, like you said, who wants to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go chase waves in 30-degree weather? Who wants to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and brew beer,
mash in,
heat the boiler, mash in, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's not uncommon to see a bunch of wetsuits hanging off our back railing, or as we've gotten a little more better, the goal was really honestly Open and Brew is a way for us to, enjoy the coastal lifestyle that we love so much, without having to necessarily focus into the boomer bust, summer tourism thing. Obviously we benefit from that, but, Point Pleasant Beach is great, great year-round community. You had a lot of great support, throughout the years. So this allowed us, we thought, we're going to have a lot of time to, make our schedules to go surfing. And, I guess in a good problem, we've been pretty busy where we've had to miss a few swells, but it's getting to the point where we get to, maybe take a what we call a board meeting, myself and Bert, and paddle out in the middle of the day if we can.
Board meeting. I like that. There you go.
Yeah.
That's great. Whatchamacallit? Talk about Point Pleasant a little bit. Again, there's people watching this from maybe not knowing.
Yeah. So like. When we first moved there, one of the locals explained it as a drinking town with a fishing problem. But it is it's got a great, it's a very one of the finer, I guess, beach towns along the Jersey Shore. It's got the iconic boardwalk, the aquarium, and it has like one of the more unique things about it is as a commercial fishing industry still, which allows all the great seafood restaurants in town to buy directly from the boats. So you get some of the freshest seafood and some interesting locally caught stuff. It's really come back with a pretty robust downtown, which we were happy to be a part of. And the town is, like I said, it's great. It's, it's inviting the family, young people. There's a lot of different stuff going on. And it was kind of a place, my business partner, Bert, had a lot of family that lived there. So it was kind of early on. It was definitely a place we eyed as, and it was kind of, there was like a ring around it where there really wasn't, when we started planning this, close to 10 years ago, there wasn't really much going on here in terms of craft beer, and it's still in the town, it's kind of just us and Mike Fry right down the road as of right now. But yeah, it just, it had a pretty good year-round population. There was a lot of other draws, that was able to help us, kind of get some foot traffic early on, especially being in downtown. And they said they were very happy to have us. The town's been great and it's been easy to work with. And like I said, the people there have become, some of them become very good friends and just, they're just, they appreciate a good thing, something done right. And, I think that's what we've done. We try to, give as much love back to the town and the people that have, helped make us, because the town is part of our success. I don't think we would have the same kind of success and freedom if we just opened this anywhere. The town and the place has been, I think, a part of that. Yeah.
And that is always important too. Because if you're part of the community, you are part of the community. And, you have a community like that, everybody's, it's like the craft beer. We always say about the craft beer industry. It's an industry unlike any other, where everybody is, there's really no competition. It's like a big family.
Yeah.
And when you have a community like that, that's even better. So.
I mean, it's also kind of a cool location because you guys aren't far from the train station. And I know there's other breweries north of you that aren't far from train stations either. So someone can kind of hop on a train and do a little.
Yeah.
Brewery.
Bert was actually working on trying to work on a website that would kind of give you like a Jersey Shore kind of train trail that showed all the different locations. And, like I said, because there is probably, I mean, maybe even more now, but at least 5 or 6 you could hit by train, between Point Pleasant, Belmar, Bradley, Asbury, Long Branch, you have Whitechapel right there. So it's pretty cool. And the train definitely helps. Like I said,
worry about getting in the car.
Yeah. No, like I said, it
Good
really does make it easy. We do end up with a lot of. We had to put in a couple of bike racks because obviously we're at the beach. You get a lot of beach cruisers rolling up. That's one of our preferred ways to see the customers roll up. It can get wild at times, but just with the amount of bikes, like we almost need like a bike parking lot in the summer. But yeah, it's a cool location. It's a little different, but it really has worked for us, and it's like I said, it's right in the part of the in the heart of the downtown there, with a lot of other cool things happening down there. So
there's a lot of actually really good restaurants kind of along that main strip right there. So I feel like it's weird because I spent a lot of time in Point Pleasant. I lived there during a couple summers and things like that, and it was like weird. It was like when I actually really discovered that how much stuff was in town. It's like it really blows your mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's known for the boardwalk. Obviously, it's got
everyone's going east, and you're like, no, go west. And
yeah. Now I think, like I said, now that you do see there's some fantastic restaurants. Like B2 and Amendment 21 and Point Lobster, and there's the Poached Pear, high end French food, and then we have a lot of cool antique shops. Really artsy like salons and boutiques. Like I said, it really is a little more diverse, I think, than people realize. There is, like I said, you can bring the whole family there, and there's a store or a shop or something to do for everyone, in the family. We've, like I said, we've tried to help cater that, and like I said, send people out and work and get, involve ourselves in the town, as much as we can. We've done some pretty cool collaborations with some of the local restaurants, whether it's beer dinner pairings. Some of them used our beer for ingredients and recipes. We've had one of the barbecue places smoke malt for us. Like I said, it's really cool. You can walk out your front door and meet all these other interesting people following their passions, doing interesting things. So like I said, Point Pleasant Beach has been great for that, for sure.
That's awesome. All right, why don't you go back and talk about it a little bit. You said obviously it took a while to open up. What made you decide, to do it, and then how long did it take, from initial, like you and Bert saying, hey, let's do this, to actually opening the doors?
Well, I think I always have to preface it. I think the first batch of beer anyone makes, they as long as it's drinkable, have that conversation like, maybe I should open a brewery, like after doing a Mr. Beer Kit or something, which is what it's all about. Like, it's all about the possibilities, and that's what it's always been about to me and Bert. But my business partner Bert, he's a family man. He's got a lot going on right now. He is like one of the most I don't even know how to explain it, mechanically inclined. Like, he sees things and he figures out how to make them better. Whether it's equipment, whether it's his car, it's his computer, whatever it is. So like when we started home brewing, every time we'd get together, there'd be a new piece of equipment there. It'd be a new piece of this. He'd be reading about this. He'd be reading about that. He's got an idea for this. And really, that was probably 10 years ago now, and it has never stopped. So it's probably been about maybe a little over 10 years, actually, that we got serious about this. It was just one of those things. I mean, we were only 24, 25 at the time, but, we were looking for something. We had jobs that were okay, but, like I said, you get to that point where you're out of college and you're like, oh yeah, life, this is kind of tough. And I come from a long line of small business owners. Most of my family, I grew up around the idea of just, kind of doing it on your own. I guess I figured at some point I'd find my own thing. And then we kind of, we talked about this, and then I actually, my brother moved from Seattle down to San Diego, and he needed a roommate. And this was at the time me and Bert started getting serious about this. And again, we're going back over 10 years ago. There wasn't a lot of job potential in New Jersey in terms of craft beer. So, Bert twisted my arm. He's like, do you want to move to San Diego and, as a surfer and, live a block from the beach over there and get a job at a brewery? And that's what I ended up doing. I ended up selling my car, moving out with my older brother. We shared a car and a bus pass. And I, went around knocking on doors until somebody gave me a job. And that brewery was actually, I'm using the glass, Mission Brewing. They're right downtown in San Diego. They let me wash some kegs and, can some beer, do all the stuff that no one else wanted to do. But it was a great learning experience for me, not just to make beer. We were already doing that. Like I said, Bert is a whiz with the the biological aspects of making beer, but there's an operational aspect to it. And I think you can't get from home brewing, like learning how people schedule brews, understanding when they need to brew more beer. Where does the grain go? How do you store beer? What is it, the sanitary methods that these pros are using? I kind of went out there with that idea in mind and just kept a notebook and, started doing that. And that's going back, like I said, 10 years ago. It was kind of like grad school for me. And then I moved back and we just on our system brewed the same 4 beers probably for about 2 years, just tweaking one recipe, either the temperature or, the hop amounts or the hop flavors. And those 4 beers were actually, it was probably 5. It was Red Sky. Well, Red Sky, we dialed pretty early. That Red Sky is honestly the first recipe me and Bert made as home brewers by ourselves. And to this day, it's about the same. That was the first one that I think our friends were like, oh, yeah, this is pretty good. But, we basically made A-frame, which every couple weeks, and we tweak it. Ray Coast, our coconut porter, those two are probably our most popular beers or well-known beers. We just constantly turn those out, tweaked one thing, tried to understand, what, we get out of this kind of grain, what if we boil this longer, what if we add these hops earlier or late, and it was a very scientific, not what most homebrewers do. The joy of homebrewing is like, I want to make this kind of beer, and then I do it, and then I make another one, and then the creativity is there. But we came into this, like I said, looking at it as a business, and like, the best advice I got was like, find 3 or 4 beers you can make well every time and open with those. And that's what we did. Like I said, for a couple years, we just honed these recipes. Green Room, our West Coast IPA, which has been on since day one. Like I said, growing up beer wise in San Diego, we have a divine love for the clear, crisp, bubbly, and bitter West Coast IPAs to this day, and it's always been part of what we've done. But it's been like a 10-year process. It probably I would say about 7 years of like planning and studying and execution before we really open the doors to Last Wave.
Nice. Yeah,
I'm actually going to take a little bit of your inspiration because my second beer is a West Coast from Bull and Bear.
We love to see it.
So we're going to have a little clear little kick IBU.
And that's their initial offering?
This is initial offering.
That was fantastic. Yeah, no, except I think this weekend we're going to have 3 West Coast IPAs on.
Really?
And 2 kind of in the way, because even A-frame, when we open, again, A-frame, we started making A-frame, as homebrewers probably in about 2011 or 2012. And there wasn't a lot of hazy IPAs out there at the time. Our inspiration was what they used to call white IPAs.
Mm-hmm.
There's like one of my two, obviously the 2 most famous, I think, are Chainbreaker by Deschutes, which is still one of my favorite breweries, and Lagunitas,
a good beer.
Little something something was half.
Little something something's great beer.
Great beer.
Half base, still a fantastic beer. That was really the inspiration for A-frame. But when we opened, people were like, "Oh, it's a New England IPA," and we're like, "I guess," But to this day, A-frame has crystal malt and a decent bittering addition. I think that people just don't realize it comes across as just rounded. Like bitterness.
Here's an interesting question, because I feel that, obviously hazy IPAs are still king, but I also feel that West Coast have kind of made a bit of a comeback. And I also feel that I know a lot of brewers that have been kind of upping the IBU even in their New England stuff.
Yeah.
Not significantly so that it's on a West Coast level, but now you're talking maybe like 30 reviews or something, so that there's just a little shot of bitterness in there to give it some.
Matt, I can't agree more. Like I said, we've tried to go as low on the bittering end as you can go. We've never done a no boil IPA, but it's always one of those things. I think people got so scared of bitterness because if you did enter it's always a pendulum swing too. I guess that's the first thing is like when I was out in California, they were trying to make, like you said, triple IPAs that are, 9% and like so bitter, it's going to burn a hole through your tongue. Mm-hmm. And that just wasn't sustainable. Like I said, there was a reason people fell in love with craft beer, IPAs, and those were the ones that really got people interested. But, this New England thing was happening. It was very interesting, but if you go back and drink Heady Topper, which I try to do pretty often, like it's got some bitterness to it.
It's got bitterness to it.
Yeah.
It's not a New England like everybody else's. Yeah.
Yeah, we've always felt that, even like I said, even we do a lot of IPAs that are hazy. We don't call them New England because they're hazy because, we do think that, bitterness, it rounds out flavor. Sometimes when you drink like some of these really hazy beers with not a lot of bitterness, you get this beautiful like bouquet of like tropical fruit and this flavor, and then you drink it and you taste it real quick, and then it just like it's just like an off switch where it's gone.
Right.
Then when I find that sometimes I know like we say like a lot of the Vermont breweries, I think because being close to Heady Topper, like if you drink Foam or you drink Burlington Beer Company or some of these other good breweries in Vermont, their beer still has a little bit of that. It's usually a little more crisp.
Right.
And then just like that touch of bitterness that you feel on the back of your tongue, you're like, oh yeah, this is a beer all the way through. So, yeah, it's interesting, like I said, because you just, somebody latches on to an idea and they just push it as far as they can. And, hazy IPAs have gone pretty far now. You got the triple, the 11% IPA that's triple dry hopped. And, some people are like, all right, well, I remember enjoying these lighter, crisper, beers,
I mean, I even look at a Sip of Sunshine. I mean, Sip of
Yeah.
Sunshine definitely it has a malt backbone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And two is it does have a little shot of, bitterness in the finish, but it still has all that citrusy flavor. So it's like, it's almost like we're now making beers that are very similar to Sip of Sunshine, but with a lot of the hate, like, as well.
Yeah, so. No, like I said, the beauty is probably somewhere in between. Like one of my favorite beers, we're actually releasing it in cans next week. It's called Golden Hour, which is an IPA. It's base, it's Vienna, and a little bit of oats. So it gives it some cloudiness, but it's probably into the 40s in IBUs. And then the hop combo we use for it, it gives you like first of all, it doesn't have Citra, which like again, I think like Citra is such a great. It was like Cascade was on the West Coast, where like you had to throw Cascade in there as the base, just as the foundation of your IPA because it was so great. Citra's become that on the East Coast, where like I said, I'm drinking a beer with Citra Mosaic. You can't go wrong. Those are two foundational hops. Like if you have those in there, you're not going to have a bad time. But we did Golden Hour with. It gives more like peach mango without really any of that well-known base. And I think it surprises people and opens them up to kind of like experiencing the beer differently because you think you're taking that first step and it's a little deeper than you thought. Yeah. And then once you get swimming though, you're still
if it's Vienna, it'll be a little, you'll get a little sweet signature from the malt. Yeah. You got to kind of have that IBU to just kind of even everything out.
Yeah. Like I said, you want a little bit of that cracker. Like I said, that when you use Munich or, Vienna, we love those malts. Those go to a lot of our beers because it gives, like I said, like presence. Like, you can build a complex West Coast IPA. There's a lot of, it's not just one thing. Like I said, you see some of the ones that were like more malty, like you said, where you really like, they give you some of that malt sweetness and then just push through this like earthy, piney, resiny flavor. It's just, that's the kind of stuff that gets us excited. Like I said, it's, obviously as a young person, you always look back to what you're doing. You're younger and, I was drinking West Coast IPAs, but like I said, then you saw beers like Sculpin really broke through on the East Coast because it was a great beer. It was bitter, but, it had this like, they used those new school hops with that concept and, of the West Coast. And it really, just like I said, it was so drinkable. Yeah. It had so much flavor, but it didn't knock you out. And, you could still feel your tongue when you were done with it. So it really hit a sweet spot, like I said. And I think that's kind of where we are trying to push our West Coast, IPA game. Like I said, we're trying to count them up. I think throughout the year, we probably put about 6 different ones. It's probably close to as many hazy ones we put out. We have, Green Room is on all the time. That's a classic, Crystal Malts, Chinook, Cascade, a lot of C's. We do Offshore, which we just put out, which is, that's Mosaic heavy with a little bit of Strata, which are 2 new school hops that do really well in a light, crisp beer. Right. We do Cutback, which is one of my favorite ones. It's like part passion fruit, part, Cypress Hill Concert. It's fantastic and it's light. It's easy to drink. And then we have Boneyard on tap.
One of the best ways I've ever heard that flavor.
That's great.
I just saw they're working on new music. I really enjoy Cypress Hill. But that has a certain aroma to it. But yeah, so we've kind of looked at,
Cypress Hill Concert. That's
great. And we probably wouldn't, we'd always brew a West Coast IPA because it's one of the beers we think is important to show, but we wouldn't be making this many if people weren't drinking them. So that's one of those things, like you said, like we've kind of started out slow. We added one here as like a seasonal. We always had one on, then we'd add a second one, and it didn't really slow down the first one, and now, like I said, it'd be surprising. I mean, I don't know if you ever talked to Jeff from Heavy Reel, but like he's known for making some really good hazy beers. One of his favorite beers to drink at our place is Green Room, which is a 7.5%, bitter West Coast IPA. Because, like I said, it has a certain grasp.
I think it's funny because when again, I started getting into craft beer probably early 2000, but like towards the late 2000s, there seemed to be like an arms race, and it was like IBUs. Can you jam into it? And
you saw some of these
and everyone doing crazy stuff, and then it like swung completely the opposite way.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can put 0 IBUs in.
If
someone would try to do negative IBUs, if that was even possible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I said, we were just talking about. There's one that's like they call it like a whip beer. Like it's basically like more than 50% oats, and like you said, we're just like that is something. Like I just trying to process, what that, like I said, it's cool to see. Like I said, that's a good thing about craft beer is it's such a big tent, like if it's a carnival or, or a fair, it's a big tent. There's so many different areas to get lost in. Like I said, it's really, like I said, one of the things for us has always been like, we usually say as brewers, style matters. Like, because when you look at it, there's so many different styles of beer, and, you can discover them in 10 years. Like I said, like you were saying, somebody's drinking a mild. Like one of the first things that got me hooked into craft beer, besides Frank Zappa on a beer bottle, was English style beers.
Sure.
Wychwood Brewery was a great, early craft, kind of British craft brewer. They made fantastic beers, and that sweet, like Newcastle to this day. But Newcastle, London Pride, and Bass are like 3 beers that, like, if I see that in the fridge, I might grab it just because, like, that nutty, that fruity, that fruity, their yeast too. Yeah, and they're just like the expression of specialty malts was just always
Hobgoblin, Old Speckled Hen.
Old Speckled Hen. Like I said, it's just but like I discovered that was one of the first things I discovered about craft beer, and now it's coming back again, and it's so exciting to see people do that, and like I said, and then sours and Belgian beers, these farmhouse strains. It all it just. There's like, to say I don't like beer is a pretty bold statement to me, because like, I don't think you understand, if you say that, I don't think you understand the breadth of variety that is involved. We, like I said, we're coming up on our 5th anniversary. So we're working on some collabs. We do also have some, like, what we consider more traditional sour beers. Kettle sours have been a really big part of what we've done, but this is, we've got a separate storage area for, some, what they refer to as bugs, to really see, what time can do, in a little funkiness. And we're hopefully going to have some of those for our anniversary. And we're excited about that stuff because, like I said, it's beer, but it's so much more. Like when you see this stuff, Kane doing Field and Oak has been a real inspiration to us, because that's like, 10 years ago, people think, 10 years ago, like obviously people were making IPAs, but like, to go out there and see beers like Brewery and Russian River and Society, and like, this is 10 years ago, and these guys were like, had this passion for sour beer. A lot of the guys I work with at Kane.
Did you just do your list?
Yeah. So no, there's more. Like I said, California had hundreds of breweries even back then. So,
well, that's just one of the things that got me into brewing was I wanted to make beers I couldn't just go buy off of a shelf.
Right.
And I don't even know if I don't even know if that would be work today, because like no matter what you can come up with, somebody had made one of them and it's sitting on somewhere. It's crazy.
It's so funny, like researching different ingredients. I'm trying to think. We've been looking up, like things like we've looked into like squid ink, because like when people do oyster stouts, it's the same concept, like something salty, like ocean like. And like there's people
who do squid ink pasta, so
exactly. Like I said, there's like
culinary tradition.
Exactly. As a Sicilian, like squid ink is a big part of what what they do. And like I said, it's one of those things, like it could be done. We've talked, there's a lot of those things, like, trying to, you see some of these breweries now doing foraging where like they're looking at, hops basically become, like hops weren't always used in beer, right? In England, they use what used to be called gruit ale, which is like, they would just find a twigs and fruit and anything that would cut the sweetness, that's how they made beer. Juniper was used a lot. And then, the Germans discovered these funny little weeds, these, pernicious, wicked weeds and they really cut the bitterness of beer. And that's really where hops take off. But like, there's so many other ways you can flavor beer. And that's what a lot of the Belgian, traditions and some of the farmhouse stuff is really, I think what, in the IPA driven world, to see, the other foundational elements of beer, being the grain, the water quality, and of course the yeast in the air. Like you see how different English is, Belgian, and they're right across
the example is obviously is Suarez again.
Yeah.
They do a lot of beers that aren't like, they're 4 or 5% alcohol. And they're very simple at heart, but you get such amount of flavor from the grains, all these rustic grain notes, you get all these floral notes from the esters, from wild fermentations, or whatever. And it's just saying, it's like, you can create really complex profiles with a few ingredients if you do it really well.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys are getting excited about wild, ale type stuff, I'm excited to see what you guys will put out.
Yeah. No, like I said, it's just, as it's like anything else, you always want, challenge. And I think, like you said, with seeing more of the breweries trying to do stuff like, like Refren did, like Muckraker, like Field and Oak, and then, seeing breweries, focusing on lager too. Those are the, I know it's, I
need to do more of that.
Before, but like, that's the kind of beers we like guys that make beer, like that's the 4-minute mile, like being able to make something that holds up to those traditional beers that, everyone has their favorite old world beers, like that. Like I said, German, we watched this interview with a German brewer, and he said, like, we fail if you don't drink at least 4 of these. Like, that's literally the way they make their beer, is that it's so tasty and so balanced that, like, you take a sip and you have to take another sip. And again, like I said, focusing on flavor over, alcohol content. Most German beers, 4 to 5%, tops, except for right now, Stark Beer Fest, when they do the strong beers, I guess before the farming season. But like, to see those things, like you said, there's so many, there's a lot to those other elements of beer. Like I said, yeast plays a huge role in making beer what it is. And like, when you see a brewer that really pays attention to that, like I said, that's one of the things we tweaked a lot when we were home brewing, is like, what does this beer taste like on Chico? What does it taste like, on a London? What does it taste like in Kolsch? Like, because that's the only way. If you brew the same beer all 3 ways, that's like when you go to White Labs, Burke got to go, and he said, like, they brew the same exact recipe and they split it off into 7, whatever, and then they spike it with different yeasts, and like, you get to see like what yeast does to beer, and you're like, wow,
characteristics.
Yeah, this is why we can have so many beers.
I mean, I thought it was interesting because even in one of the homebrew projects we did, we took the same yeast, but from different yeast manufacturers.
Oh,
it was like a London 3 type yeast, but it was from 4 or 5 different yeast manufacturers. Yeah. We did an oatmeal stout, and it was interesting how pretty different the beers actually were. We lined them all up. Everyone got a sample cup, and we tasted them all back to back. And even though it's same malt, same hops, same fermentation temperature, same everything, but just different yeasts, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, it's like
same strains. So you imagine.
Yeah, it's a living thing, man. Like I said, even if they're trying to go for the same thing, it can always be slightly different. And that is, like I said, I mean, if you find a lot of good beer out there, that's a testament. There's a lot of good brewers, because like, you have to take care of your yeast if you want to make great beer. Like, it's one of the things that we really believe in. Like I said, and you don't have to buy all the fanciest equipment to do it. Like I said, you just have to understand what it's capable of, what it's surrounded by, and, really work from there. Like I said, because it can make a big difference. If you want to make great beer, you really got to focus on yeast and, your water profile. Those are the things that, like,
I've always said, there's the analogy of driving a car and riding a horse. And it's, when you own the car's going to go. When you're riding a horse, you pull on the reins. Most of the times, the horse is going to, but it's a living thing. So,
like I said, if anything is confound, and if anything is confounded us as brewers, it's yeast. Because like I said, like I said, hops are pretty consistent. You do have to tweak them depending on the year. But like, so that's the thing about, like I said, if there's great beer out there, that means there's a lot of good brewers, because like, hops flavors change every year depending on the environment, so you have to adjust. Sometimes like John Kimmich is like, if you really want to learn about hops, John Kimmich, who is the head of the Alchemist, like a guy that really understands hops and flavor. Like I said, he's like, he actually takes the best hops he can find. He changes them to make Heady Topper. He's like, I'm not trying to recreate something. I'm trying to recreate an experience of like just this like I've never tasted this before quite like this. And I think that's so it's like it's not different variants, it's just him just constantly every year trying to bring more expression out of that beer. And like I said, you drink Heady Topper every year, and it still feels like it's like the first time you hear a great song, you only get to hear it once. Like I said, every time you drink Heady Topper, you get to experience that same feeling. So it's like, there's some really impressive things the way brewers can try to control these uncontrollable elements, which are, like I said, even grain this year is like, everything's suffering from these wild, weather swings.
Sure.
Grain did not come out. It was not a great year for grain. So the fact that brewers are making it work and still get beer out there is like really impressive to me, because like I said, there are
places where
so many variables day to day to execute the same things.
Yeah.
By the way, just to cut in really quick, I'm going to drink my second beer from Tin Barn. Lions,
Nice.
Tigers, and Beers on my.
I don't know if I've heard of them yet.
Tin Barn?
I was going to say, funnily enough, I have my Tin Barn glass.
Every Tin Barn glass. Yeah.
Are they a New York brewer? Or are they?
They're upstate New York, yeah.
Okay, yeah. It
They're
sounds
in Chester, right?
They're 5 minutes away from Drownlands and about 25 minutes from Equilibrium. So
yeah, it's a good place to be.
Yeah, and they make really good beer.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, but I went in there, and Rich and Dale, two of the owners, just plopped themselves down at the table I was sitting at and cracked some cans and showed me around, and we had a good old time. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny the way that can happen.
The whole beer community thing. It's
Yeah.
I know them from Adam. They didn't know me from Adam, but it's just they're like, oh, you're a brewer, like, hey, pop down.
Yeah. Like you said, it's never hard. It's never hard to get me or Bert, to talk about beer. It's one of our favorite hobbies. That's like half of brewing is talking about beer.
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So here's the terrible question, is because all the beers are your babies, but like, do you have a favorite beer that you guys make?
Yeah. Luckily, I'm not a father, so I'm not confounded by that moral quandary. So yeah, I could say without a doubt, Layback, which is our pale ale.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, shout out to pale ales, and we actually talked a lot about this week. Like, I think there's always some confusion because these styles have been around now, at least in the American beer community, it's changed. And like, we have some people come in and order a pale ale and thinking they're getting one thing and then getting another thing. And for us, Layback it's got some crystal malt in it, a couple of hops, no dry hop, and it is like, it has this hint of, what, makes an IPA great, and then this balance of just like a sweet malt kiss. And like I said, it's like 6%, endlessly crushable. We love crushable beer at Last Wave. So like I said, we do, again, like I said, try to hover more in that like 4.5 to 7 range with most of our beers, because, like I said, usually when you're drinking beer, you want to have a couple, and you're like, there's nothing wrong with having a cup, making a beer that people can enjoy and have a couple of, like I said, with flavor, without knocking you out. And that's kind of
walking off the beach, they want to cool down and have a couple, beers. That sounds like a good plan, man.
Yeah, no. So yeah, Layback without a doubt is my favorite child. But yeah, no, it's not an easy choice, but it's just one, like I said, every time I drink it, it like I said, it kind of like just, it doesn't really matter. It just kind of stops me for a second. And that's what you want a beer to do. You want it to take you out of whatever the whatever's going on in your day. Like that's what a beer should do, is take you a little bit out of that, like just a breath of fresh.
I don't have it very often, but every now and then when I have it, and you sit there and have a Sierra Nevada, and you're just like, that's a damn good beer.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. And you're like, how did I forget about this beer? But it's all there.
It's all in that good Newark yeast. I mean, Chico yeast.
Yeah. Like, right, there's the connection.
Yeah.
That's the tradition there. And Ken Grossman, again, is another guy that we look up to. Like, we actually got to go to the Sierra Nevada brewery this year. And it's like going to Jurassic Park, like seeing how like the scale of it, but like the execution and the attention to detail. Like they're the biggest brewery in America, but they haven't changed how they do it. There's still this attention to detail that never got lost. And like I said, that is a testament to the Grossmans. Like their can says, family owned and argued over, for 40 some years. Like, and that's what it's about, idea, like, you need somebody to remind you why you're doing this. Except that's, I think, the relationship they have. I think that's one of the things. Me and Bert were very honest with each other. Like, there's never blame like everybody's going to mess up. I know if I mess up, the next time it could be Bert, you just understand that you got to figure it out. But like, if we disagree on something, we're going to be very respectful about what we disagree on. But like, that's where our best ideas come from, is like that, elevation of the idea. Like you could just throw out there, hey, let's make a beer like this. Well, what about this? Like I'm probably the I guess you'd call it the realist. Like I'm like, well, this would be the wrong thing. This is what would happen. This is what happened. Bert, kind of sticks to the positive end. And when you work that, balancing, the risk versus the reward, you find, a pretty good level. And like I said, that's kind of with our beers. Like we try not to follow any trend too heavily. Like we like making beer. We like dark beers. We like light, we like lagers. We like stouts, sour beer. It's just the idea of experiencing what's possible with that. So it kind of, it makes you think a lot. But like I said, when you just drink a good beer,
What styles do you wish there were more of?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because I know I have an answer for it.
I do.
I know, yeah. That's the best thing is like, and that's what I love about beer is like everybody connects with something different. I'm trying to think what I haven't seen too much of.
Well, I mean, I'll give you here, then I'll give you my answer real quick. So probably one of my favorite styles, and I really don't think I've seen them until it was probably like a year and a half to 2 years ago, is the Czech dark lager, the Tmave Pivo.
Yeah.
and honestly, I just love everything about that style because it's decocted, so it's got like that maltiness to it, or like a bock, but then it's got the heavy, hopping in the finish, like a German beer. Oh, and John, look at that, like good job, John.
Anytime.
I don't know. To me, it's just again, it seems very similar to like what we're saying about Sierra Nevada. It's got malt, it's got hops, but they're kind of balanced, and it's still 4, maybe 5% alcohol. It's still a lager. Still finishes crisp and clean. You can drink a bunch of them. It's like, to me, I love that style.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good one. Like you said, there's it's good to see. Like I said, I think some people joke about, oh, we're learning about this beer from this country. Cuisine is the same way. Like everybody does this a little differently. So it's funny we can go like region to region. Like I said, I think the really cool thing is like Italy was one of the first places to jump on the like the craft beer movement in Europe, because they didn't have as big of a beer scene. So they kind of experimented earlier. And now it's funny to see, like I said, like Italy inspired, them to make what's the West Coast Tivo or Pivo pills.
Pivo, yeah.
Which is like, that's been around forever and people have drank it forever. And they didn't know it was an Italian style lager that, these American craft brewing legends tasted. They're like, wow, this is great. So like, I think that is one style. Like I said, you're starting to see a lot of it, but I think there's a lot there. And I think there's a lot of American brewers.
Yeah, I have a lot of Italian, Italian style lagers.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's also, it's great. Polish lagers, they have, Lublin hops, which kind of fairly distinct. Anything that's going to be like, it's from a very small region that's going to give it a distinctive flavor profile is fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's like any other, like experiencing different food cuisines. It's so interesting to see because like you see the same ingredients pop up, but they taste so differently. Like I said, region.
And that's like the huge difference from like Europe to the U.S. because it's like, if you're in Italy or Switzerland or something, like you go the next valley over, they're eating a different cheese than you are.
Right.
And it's their, this is your cheese, that's their cheese. Everyone has their little regional thing.
Yeah.
And, like now, it's the U.S. never really got that. You know what I mean? We have a much more homogenized kind of culture, I think. But, it's cool to see some of these little, national or even, sub-national styles.
Well, it kind of got that way.
Rediscovered, I guess is the best word.
Yeah, it kind of got that way over the years in the U.S. I mean, I'm not obviously well before any of us, It was that way. It was these towns had their own, these regions had their own thing, and it got homogenized over the years. Yeah. Now it's kind of, I mean, it's never going to be like it was. It's never going to be like it is over in Europe, but it's kind of getting back to maybe a little bit of that.
Yeah. You always got to go back and look at the fundamentals. Like, why did we start doing this? And like I said, you see some of these things, some of the like, in the pursuit of making a lot of beer, you miss the point of making beer, so like you kind of see that, like once these even bigger breweries get to a point where they're sustaining, like I said, you see some of the cool stuff that like New Belgium's done with their, some of their sour series, very like the Cascara, the quad Cascara cherry thing is still Danny, my business partners, like I said, her favorite beer, like one of her favorite beers. Like you said, you just don't see like they did these, Cascara cherries are like these interesting cherries from Central America that like, is a very expensive, but they have this very like rich and decadent, feeling kind of like wine. And it was like not something anyone had done in beer. And like you see a giant brewery, like looking at traditional methods to figure out how somebody would do this, or, like you said, people now like focusing on, like lager beer, some of the Saison even at a larger scale is like, putting sour beer in cans is, a big thing that some of these big breweries are doing, that, really push it.
Yeah.
I mean,
For
that's
the record, by the
that's
way,
an interesting point, because like you want to talk about ingredients, and it's like now, it used to be like a beer would say with cocoa nibs in it. Now it's like, is it Ghanaian, Ecuadorian? Like
Yeah, right.
there's cocoa nibs from like 15 different countries.
Sure.
Yeah. We've done
list which mix it is and everything else.
So me and Bert have argued over. Yeah, me and Bert have argued over. The difference between Madagascar vanilla and Papua New Guinea. Vanilla. Like I said.
Yeah, I'm
both interesting. But yeah, it's one of those things. Like you'd be surprised. We can argue about anything, but like I said, that is like circling back. That is where our best ideas come from, and we like that. We like the ability to speak honestly. Like I said, it just you can't hold back if you're doing something. It's hard to hold back when you're doing something you love. So, we've just found a way to, like I said, to take that balance and kind of elevate both of our games, because we like I said, we complement each other in a lot of ways. And like I said, it's fun because we do ultimately have the say in Last Wave. We've kind of structured it that way. So, whatever we get to do, it's not really tied to, the idea is to make a life for ourselves and, to do this fun thing. It's not about, making sure everyone's tried our beer. It's just, it's about, kind of bringing people together and, having a good time.
I mean, to me, the cool thing is, there was a little bit of a point in craft beer where I feel like too many people thought it was like, there were a lot of people getting into it and looking at it as investment or looking at it.
Yeah.
And I feel like right now we're at the point where we've gotten past that. And now we really are, it's the availability of really quality ingredients and from all over the world is so good now. It's like the creativity and the things that you can really do. I mean, this is the renaissance of
oh yeah. I mean, like I said, yeah,
you can make
your point now, like you can stay within the state of New Jersey and get yeast, hops, and grain. So that's not something 10 years, 15 years ago I would have thought was possible. Like I said,
never would have thought it was possible. No.
Yeah, like I said, we live in a state. We are the Garden State, so that should be possible. Like I said, you can make a beer with with water, hops, grain, and yeast from New Jersey, and it's cool. And you've seen a couple. I think there's been a couple breweries that have worked to do that, like make all New Jersey beers, because this craft beer works because people decided quality was better than quantity. And we got to remember that too. Like I said, when you're working with ingredients, it is important to pay attention to where it's coming from, and how it's grown, and the quality of it, because like you said, all those pieces, understanding those base pieces is how you get the best beer. And
it's the unfortunate mantra. So the unfortunate side of that coin is you're only as good as the worst beer you ever made. So don't ever get out on ingredients, because in the end run, it's just gonna penalize you. It's you may make 10 amazing beers and you make one all right beer. That's the one that everyone talks about. And
exactly. Yeah. Like I said, and we are overly critical of our beers, and we've dumped beer too. Like I said, it's one of those things. Like you said, like
it's worth it.
I don't. Yeah, this is a hand. This is your first impression to somebody. So even though we could make money and sell that beer, and people say, oh, whatever, most people say it's not bad, you could miss out on the potential of having your next best customer, your best next connection. You know what I mean? Like, so every beer that goes into a glass or a can, like I said, it matters to us. Like I said, so we are, you do have to really just like be honest with yourself. Every time you make a beer, every time it comes out of the can, out of a tank, like you said, we will be there, like really like batch to batch, like, how can we tighten this up? It's always about focusing that energy. Like I said, I think, like I said, being 5 years, we know what we like about beer. We know what we like about the beers we're making. And now it really is about us, about like taking the best parts of those beers and, like I said, just amplifying it, making it better. Whether it is, like I said, the crispness of a lager, or, like I said, the richness of a stout, or, the body, matching the aroma of the IPAs. Like, it's just, we know what we like about all of our beers. Now it's really just bringing them out. It's like that's, it's one of those things, like, even as I think people think like once you've had a beer, you've had that beer, but if you went back and tried, like brewers are always trying to take what you love about a beer and make it, better without, sacrificing anything below it. It's like Jenga. You're building, this kind of thing over time. And it's just, to us, that's the way for us to like continually grow, is to like really, touch up beer. And like I said, it's one of those things, every brewery does it too. It's one of those things where you want to just, you can't just let it sit still. Like I wonder about, like I said, we're talking about Senior Shirt, Pliny the Elder, usually at the top of every beer list. For them to be able to do that and make it every year interesting, every year make it interesting.
How backwards this thing is.
Yeah. But, it's one of those things
here.
like they have to tweak that every year to make it interesting, and it works. And like I said, that's just, it's somebody you just got to keep picturing what that beer could be. It's kind of like never settling for what it is. Like, we work at that, like I said, and it's, that's one of the fun parts.
So taking that a step further, I know we've touched on this personally on before, but now that you guys have been around a few years, you're doing some level of distro, and distro gets scary because you're now handing your beer to someone else.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, again, you want your beer to be the best it can be when it gets to somebody's hand. And yet, you can't walk into somebody's liquor store and put your beer in the shelf, like that's their decision. So I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about just your experience with distro, and like are you selective about who you give beer to, or so on or so forth, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, it's like I said, we kind of, you have to trust your instincts. Like those are what gotten you here. So like we do a lot of research on a lot of stuff. Like I said, we really do look at everything closely. We consider the weight of every decision. Is that a cost or an investment? You look at the ways to like build for your future too. Distribution is, it's always an interesting thing. You can read up about it and you hear horror stories about it. And, at the end of the day, you kind of have to like trust yourself. Like when you meet, I'm one of those people, like I try to go into any interaction with an open mind and say like, what's the best possible outcome? What's the worst possible outcome? And you kind of gauge it. And like I said, it's a good way to feel, sometimes, what feels right, essentially. So when you're getting involved with beer sales, like you said, like the instinct is to just get as much beer out there as you can. Like if somebody asks, give them as much as they want. But then, you have to like kind of, it's a dance where, you need, to understand what the ceiling of a product is outside of your tasting room, what's that distance, and, what connects these places, like
it's a strange thing because like how things sell in your tasting room may not translate to how things go in cans out in the wild.
Oh yeah. We've noticed that. Yeah, absolutely. With some of our beers where Right Coast is a great beer. It's a great coconut. It's a great porter. Even if it didn't have coconut, it would be a great porter. And I think, like I said, we've tried to put other dark beers next to it, and like they don't necessarily do as well in the tasting room. But if we send it out to a bar, that's looking for a stout or a porter, it does well. So like it's one of those things. Like there's sometimes like the beer needs to leave the nest to really kind of stand out.
Flourish,
like, for us, like I said, Red Sky was a beer that got us on at a lot of bars because no one had one on. Like they were like, we're not going to take cane or carton off because we don't need another IPA, but I don't have a red ale. So like I said, it was one of those feel things where it was like, all right, this is our entryway. Our beers that weren't hoppy did well. And then all of a sudden, now we have a bunch of bars that carry A-frame consistently, where you can go in and you see the tap, it's going to be A-frame. But that came from, like I said, feeling it out and deciding when the time was to push the beers we really wanted out there. And A-frame is one of the beers we want out there.
Well, it's like Matt said with what you were talking about with the coconut porter. When people are in the tap room, they're in a different frame of mind than they are when they're in the liquor store.
Yeah.
And they might have just had the coconut porter. Oh, this is delicious. I got to take some home.
Yeah.
Or whatever they're doing, even if they're, just looking at all the taps, maybe they had a couple of tastes or whatever. They're in a different frame of mind than they are when they walk into a packaged goods store.
Oh, yeah.
In a packaged goods store, they have a preconceived notion of what they want. So, they might go right past it because they're not looking for a porter, because they went in there to get, whatever they went in there for. It's a different frame of mind. But that's smart about as far as what gets on tap too, because a smart a smart bar, a smart, beer manager at a bar or whatever will put on, beers that complement each other.
Exactly,
he's not going to have, he's got 12 taps, he's going to have 12 IPAs.
Yeah.
If he does, he's stupid.
Yeah.
But having that, then it complements the other beers that are on tap. So they bring it in for that reason, and they sell well as a point of that.
Oh yeah, no, like I said, and it really is, like I said, you do have to put a lot of trust with Matt. Like I said, what Matt was saying too. Like I said, when you give it to a bar, you're hoping they're going to take care. Like I said, it's like I said, I'm not a father, like I said, but like I know that feeling of like giving that beer away, like I said, because you don't know how it's going to be handled out there.
You don't. You just have the
big
honking leap of faith.
Yeah, exactly. You do have to check up on it. Like I said, we have a good team. Like I said, we've hired people, like I said, that, really do enjoy, not just what we do, but how we do it. Like I said, taking every time we say we're going to give somebody beer, taking it very seriously. Like
right.
We're going to give this in the best possible way, the best possible time. We want to be involved. We want to be out there. It's so cool to go out, to sell beer out to bars. And like I said, even as a Main Street brewery, 60% of our beer goes out the door. Which I don't think people sometimes understand. Like, I guess if they've drank it outside and then they show up to Last Wave and they see it as this, this storefront in downtown, like I think the scale throws them off, because we work hard to get beer out there. But like I said, it takes time to build that, because we weren't necessarily focusing on any one style of beer that was going to make us automatically famous. It was just like the best compliment we get is our beers taste like they should. And when that happens, you can, get beer out there, people are willing to put that on,
right.
And that's like kind of been our thing. So like I said, we do check up on our beer. Like I said, if, we like our beer to be in the fridge at stores, like you have to follow up with that. Like I said, we have a good sales team, that makes sure, like I said, that, we've gone and bought, like I said, we've gone and personally bought out beers if they were sitting on the shelves too long. Cause you don't, like I said, you just don't want it to,
Well,
you don't want the experience to.
You got it. So if that beer's been sitting on the shelf too long, even though it could have been a good beer, it can be your quote unquote worst beer. So
yeah. So like I said, yeah, we follow that beer journey, like I said, and like I said, we take distro seriously. And like I said, it's paid dividends, because first of all, they're paying for the beer, the bars. So that's, like I said, that's a good way to keep the lights on, is getting a solid distribution network. But the other point is it's advertising for you. Anytime somebody walks into a bar and they see your tap, and they walk into another bar and they see your tap, all of a sudden they're like, oh wow, okay, like, these guys are here, what are they all about? And then you got to try it. Like I said, it's advertising to show that, we're out there and people want to drink this beer. Like I said, and we kind of looked at it like regionally. Obviously, like we've done well at the beach, but we also do pretty well in North Jersey liquor stores, because all the people that come down and visit in the summer, they have this beer at the beach, it reminds them of having a good time at the beach, and hanging out with their friends. And then they see it, in January in their local liquor store, right, and they pick it up. Like I said, it gives them that, like, like I said, we like to get out there.
Wishing you were in Point Pleasant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what are your, any future plans, any events coming up, any future plans for the brewery, anything on the horizon you want to let everyone know?
Yeah, man. I mean, we like I said, I think I mentioned earlier, we're going to be turning 5 this May. We do it, right before Memorial Day, which is a pretty wild time at the beach to have a anniversary party. But we're hoping to do something big now that things are kind of rolling back into the kind of the normal realm. Like, so we're hoping to do something big and try to get the community involved. For our 5th anniversary in May. We're working on expanding. We got the beer garden's been made permanent. That's actually something we've been working on since before COVID. So,
nice.
We have this nice we kind of had this experiment out there the past, summer or two, and it's going well. So we're going to work on building that, making that look cool. Like I said, we are in the process of opening a second location. It's going to be something different. That's right now. That's all we can really talk about. We are going to have another location in New Jersey. We're going to be doing something a little different. It's not going to necessarily be Last Wave. It's just, like I said, me and Bert, we're very passionate about pushing things and doing something different. And we've got some ideas that I think are, worth their own space. So hopefully in the next few weeks, we're going to be able to share more about that.
Cool.
But yeah, so we got some.
Let us know. We'll put everything. We'll put it up on the website. We'll put it up on the
no,
Facebook,
we appreciate
Instagram,
it.
and everything else.
like I said, we love talking beer, and like I said, there's more to talk about. There's a bigger story out there for us, I guess, with beers. So we're always looking at what's best. We've looked into everything, like I said, because we love seeing people have a good time, and that means like I said, for us, having a couple beers. We looked at the production aspect, and we looked at the smaller, what we get to do as like that kind of main street, that 7 to 10 barrel system to us is just like the flexibility of it is like, it makes this easier. Cause like I said, we have enough capacity. We can push beer out there and like really just, keep the engine humming. And then we get to we still have some small enough tanks where we can mess around and do some stuff that a bigger brewery might not be able to take a risk on. And that's like, we like that. So then looking at that as like, what else can we do? Well, there's some things that we can't do with what we're doing now, just because of, how we've set this up and how it it feels right with Last Wave. So we looked at, what else could we do? Just an extension of that, kind of in a different realm of, what makes, I guess,
I like to call that the stupid beer, because it's the beer that I know I want to make.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to sell that well, but I don't care. I'm going to make it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It'll
and that's,
sell.
I think
you put passion behind it, and it'll sell.
It
might take a while, but it'll sell.
Beers to keep the lights on, and then it's like, this one, I just want to make this beer.
And you see, like I said, you've gotten to see a lot of breweries get to do that, and I think that's just, like I said, hopefully a maturity thing. Like I said, you've seen even New Belgium, who was late to the hazy IPA game, started making Voodoo Ranger, and now they've made that its own brand.
Yeah,
right.
Kind of understanding when something needs a little more space. We can have the same, it's all beer, but this is a different aspect of what we see this world as, and it's a little different, like I said, but it's something we're excited to do, and it's exciting. So
we're very excited. We're very excited for you too.
Yeah, like I said,
we're looking forward to that actually happening. So
good luck with everything on that.
Cheers with everything. Good luck with everything.
Absolutely.
Wait to be there for the opening.
We'll be there for the opening. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This has been a lot of fun. So
we have one comment here from the Beer Samurai.
There he is.
Actually, commented. He says, "Even though I'm not on the show tonight, can I still drink a beer?"
Oh man, I'm gonna have to say, hell yeah.
I say hell yeah.
No, my answer is no. You can drink multiple beers, but you can't.
That's up to you.
You can't drink, exactly, a beer. But Brian Altschul mentioned that Dave Cichon, no beer for you.
Oh, man.
And Dave said, oh, man. So, there you go. But cheers, Dave. Hope you're having fun with your daughter. Cheers to her.
Yeah, cheers.
A good Floridian beer, I think, so.
Cheers.
There you go.
Where is he by Tampa? Or?
Over that side, I believe.
Yeah.
There's some good breweries over there for sure.
There's plenty,
over there.
Well, we do every year. We do one show like the. Hold on, Brian was outvoted. Yes, he was, Dave. Yes, he was. Every year we do the show right before the week of Christmas. Dave is always in Florida, so he's remote from Florida. 2 years ago, he was remote from his brother's house. Last year, he was remote from Nobo Brewing, which is. North Point Beach, I believe. It's north of Miami. So he was down there. But good guys down there. It was actually had them on the show as well. So
yeah.
But it was good. I'm sorry, Fort Lauderdale. Yes, there you go. North of Fort Lauderdale. Or in that area.
What an invasive species, Dave.
There you go. All right. Let's do our top three. Top three list. As we tell everybody every week, Nick, I'm not obviously sure if you know that we started the top three a while back to pay homage to 1933, obviously, repeal prohibition. So that's why it's three. That's the main reason why it's a top three list and not a top 10 list. Top 10 list, it would take too damn long.
Yeah, we'd also be on this call for like 2 days.
Yeah.
We have to do a top three list. So there you go.
That'd be a whole separate thing.
Exactly. So our top three list tonight is top three California breweries. Top three California breweries.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to kick it off with Mr. Spent a bunch of time in San Diego brewing and surfing himself.
Yeah.
Mr. Nick Jiorle. Please let us know what your top three favorite California breweries are.
Oh, man. Like I said, it's got like such a long tradition now. There's, you go back in time and, there's always been, for me, at least in my lifetime, there's always been a lot of great breweries out there, and getting to go out there and, like I said, kind of travel through that state, really see the breadth of what was going on. To me, there's one that, like, foundationally, first of all, I can't even count Sierra Nevada. They're like Jimi Hendrix. We're like you said, we're like, they don't even count. Like, there's Jimi Hendrix, there's Sierra Nevada, there's everyone else. But for me in California, AleSmith, I think, makes fantastic beer. Like,
Yeah.
one of the best pale ales. 394 pale ale is like a beer I could drink every single day. Their IPAs, the Speedway Stout series, it's fantastic.
Legend.
And they have a Tony Gwynn museum at their brewery, which is really cool. It's
Tony Gwynn Museum.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's inside the brewery, like I said, and it's a beautiful space, and they make great beer. Modern Times, they were kind of opening. I met one of the brewers as I was leaving San Diego. They were just getting started. I used to, anytime my brother flew back home, there was always Modern Times cans in our fridge. Just fantastic. Like, I think, like I said, that perfect.
I think they're super underrated.
What?
I just think they're probably one of the most underrated breweries.
Yeah,
because they're so good at so many things, and
exactly,
not a lot of people talk about them. But
no, that's something. They're absolutely, like, we're always inspired by guys like that, because people like that, because they just, like I said, that was the pinnacle of, I think, West Coast IPA, where they just, like, kind of showed some of the fruitier elements of those hops in a different way. And like I said, their coffee beers, Sleepless City, I think they did like a brown ale with coffee in it, like and they roast their own coffee. One of the best beers I've ever had. Like I said, and their tasting rooms are always interesting and wild. It's always an experience too. So like I said, it's a great brewery. And then I guess the last one would have to be Society. That's another one that's a little smaller.
Sure.
It's one of the guys from Russian River and one of the guys from the brewery. Their beer is just, like, fantastic. Another brewery that just really executes to style and understands, like, the potential of their beer. Like I said, the Pupil is one of my favorite IPAs that they make. But that's my top three.
There you go. That's awesome.
We have an interloper. He
He felt left out, so he wanted to join us for the top three.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I might have a top three.
Might you?
Well, you're going after me then, because you're not stealing any of mine.
Yeah, because I'll just steal all of yours. I probably just
steal all of mine. Is what we'll do.
Eat yours anyway.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm going because this is extremely timely. So I am about to pour my third beer, which is bourbon barrel aged OE from Smog City.
Nice.
Smog City in LA. Also a very, very, what I think, underrated brewery. They're about a couple blocks from Monkish, and everyone goes to Monkish.
Yeah.
But I think Smog City makes excellent beers, and some of their barrel-aged beers are just fantastic. The Infinite Wishes, which is their bourbon barrel-aged stout, and then the OE, which is the bourbon barrel-aged barley wine. Just fantastic, guys.
Yeah, that's cool.
A huge fan.
I'm a little jealous that you opened it there and not, at a later date, where,
well,
me or at
I have enough bourbon barrel-aged barley wine that
I know you do.
Don't worry about it. I got plenty of that.
Yeah.
But obviously, Nick already said Modern Times, which was on my list. But the other one I'm going to go with is, they're probably a little more on the hype end of the spectrum, but I just absolutely love their beer, and that's Bottle Logic.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm going for my first two choices. I'm going very heavily on the barrel aged beers, but Bottle Logic is just, anytime I've had any of their stouts with, they do barrel aged stouts, they do with a big collection of different adjuncts depending on which stout it is. All of them just have really clean flavor. Some of the best adjunct barrel aged stouts I've had.
Yeah.
And the number one for me, and this is a brewery that I've said, if I had a choice and I only could drink one brewery for the rest of my life, and you had to basically do it based on their entire portfolio, it's got to be Firestone Walker for me.
Oh man, yeah, I love
because again, everything from the Pivo Pills all the way up to Sukaba and Parabola. They do some of the light sours, or some of the sour stuff. They just do everything. They do it really well.
Yeah.
Right. I don't care, name a style, and one of their beers is going to be just a really really solid representation of style. I can go there and drink anything. And the only knock I have on them is that they did stop making probably one of my favorite beers ever, which is Wookie Jack.
Oh,
yeah.
So good.
Which is a black rye IPA.
Such a good beer.
Friggin' phenomenal.
Such a good beer.
And you know, they just I don't, for whatever reason, they discontinued it. I guess I wasn't drinking enough of it.
Yeah, but I was drinking enough of it.
Yeah,
I was saying, I'm like, that's an impossibility. But yeah, no, Firestone Walker would definitely be on my list.
Oh yeah, Matt Brindleton. He's a great brewer, and like I said, there's a bar down the street from me that has Union Jack, and I walk in there and it's tough to drink anything else.
You know, and just DBA. You know, again, British beer, Sticky Monkey, Belgian beer, stouts, barley wines.
You name it, they cover it.
IPAs. You know, they got all the whatever. What was it? Luponic Distortion or
Distortion.
Series of beer.
Brian Alt just said Wookie Jack. Yum.
Yeah.
No, like I said, we look to what they're doing a lot of times with hops, because those are guys that bring great expression out of hops. Like, so that's what we usually look to, you know, for inspiration, like how you bring these ingredients out. Like I said, Firestone Walker does it on a large scale, and it's always good. Like I said, Pivo Pils is them, right? Like they're the, you know,
fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, that's a benchmark of brewing in America. Is that beer? You know, it's like I said, it's cool to see. So yeah, like those are all breweries we look to, you know, that's like awesome. Really as inspiration.
Yeah. Samurai, go ahead, give us your three, or steal the only one of mine left.
After I unmute myself.
There you go. You have to unmute yourself.
Well, two of them have already been mentioned, because three is kind of a tie because they're the OGs.
Right.
You know, that's going to be Sierra Nevada and Anchor. Right. The two breweries that kicked off the revolution on the West Coast.
Absolutely, we'd love to make a California Common. That is one.
There are not enough California Commons. That's a great style. Like,
see, exactly. There's an American regional one.
California Common. Yeah. Great.
That is fantastic. So yeah, Anchor,
beautiful beer. So that's my tied for three. Two and one. Yeah, I love everything.
So basically, you tied yourself for three of two breweries that I could have mentioned.
Yeah,
you did two. Thanks.
Yeah, but we didn't have our pre-show call where we kind of eliminate. You can't use this. You can't use this. So I don't know what.
So you just screwed me either way. So
I'm just going to say what I want to say.
No worries. It's all good.
And you know, next week we can get back to not canceling each other out.
All right.
But you know, and then I've got to go. Also, you know, maybe that next tier OG. Have you talked about the potential of Stone being sold on the show yet?
No.
No, that was announced that you know, their debt at this point, they can't. Apparently, I don't think they can pay their rent, so they're talking about possibly selling the brewery.
I was going to bring that up after the top threes. There's two things I want to bring up at the top threes, and that was one of them. So.
Okay, so forget I said that.
That's still intriguing. I need to learn more. So
yeah, we'll get back.
400. They're looking for $464 million.
That's a deal. Yeah, I'm going to go through the cushions.
Check your furniture. See if you can pull it together.
Check your winter
on this one, so we might be picking that up. But I got to put Stone up there as number two. It's just what they did. You know, they really the West Coast style IPA. They took it to the next level.
Well, yeah. When you have the dictionary and it says West Coast style IPA, there's a Stone here.
Yeah,
for it, you know.
And they pretty much invented, you know, the black ale, right? They refused to call it a black ale or a black IPA or anything. I can't remember the name of that beer. It's like right on the tip of my tongue. But
Arrogant Bastard?
No, it wasn't Arrogant Bastard. It was Sublimely Self-Righteous.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it was. That was a fantastic beer. So I have to put Stone there at number two. And number one, yeah, Matt, you took my number one because you're right. They do every single style perfectly, right? And that's Firestone Walker.
Yeah.
Oh God, love their beers. Everything they put out, there's nothing they put out where I went, yeah, I'll never drink that again.
Yeah.
So.
You'll never drink it again because Matt had it on his list,
or because Matt didn't drink enough and they discontinued it.
Oh, Wookie Jack, yeah, okay.
Trust me, I did my part. I tried. I drank a whole
I think we all did.
Oh, I was right with you, and apparently Brian was as well. So
yeah.
All right,
Johnny.
Yeah. Look.
Can I throw an honorable mention out there?
You want to take another one that I could have said? Sure. Why not?
I'm going to. Bear Republic.
You suck. Seriously, I hate you.
The Bear Republic's a blast from the
To
past.
answer your question, no, you cannot do an honorable mention.
Okay, I'm not going to do an honorable mention.
John, I want to hear. I
This is
love
why
Bear
I'm on the show today.
Hi.
Hi.
This would be Olivia. We went to the top of the Empire State Building. We ate in Little Italy.
I can't drink.
Well, she can drink, just not alcohol.
There you go.
So yeah, you're not old enough to drink alcohol.
Where did you eat in Little Italy?
Lamella.
Lamella. You didn't go to Vincent's?
Nah, I didn't go to Vincent's.
No.
No, I didn't feel like getting So if I go to Vincent's, I got to sit in the corner with my facing the door.
Yeah, always. Absolutely.
You got it, just in case someone busts in. But take the cannoli.
Did you go to Ferrara's afterwards?
No, we were stuffed.
Gotcha.
We were stuffed.
Gotcha.
So, okay, so if I left you any, John.
All right.
John, there are. Wait, I'm still getting this backwards.
All right. Well, yeah. So obviously, I'm going to mention them. Okay.
Breweries that have not been mentioned yet.
All right. Well, I'm going to make an honorable mention of the following. Okay, because these were all on my. Yeah. All right. Firestone Walker was on my list. Sierra Nevada was on my list, and Modern Times was on my list. All right. Yeah. So they're all honorable mentions. Okay. Stone's an honorable mention because I would have went there fourth. Bear Republic's an honorable mention because I would have went there fifth. All right.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I will say Russian River, and not that should be a sixth by any means, but Russian River just.
I'm surprised it wasn't said.
Yeah, one of my favorite.
Because I figured someone else would say it.
One of my favorite beers from Russian River.
I did wear the shirt.
There you go. One of my, don't get me wrong, I love Pliny the Younger, and Blind Pig's a great beer too. But one of my favorite beers from Russian River is actually Consecration.
Yeah.
It's such a damn good beer. The black currants in that beer, I mean, it's amazing.
Program.
Yeah.
But also Pliny pretty much started the whole thing, the whole Wales thing, right?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Where everyone's like heard about Pliny, they wanted Pliny, so trading may have gone before that, but trading for whales, that I think Pliny pretty much started that tradition.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw in. That's number two. I'm going to make that number two. I'll go back to number three really quick. All right, and not one that's one of the 5 or 6 honorable mentions that I mentioned before. Anderson Valley. Anderson Valley makes some decent beers. There's a few. I won't go into a bunch of them, but. They're pretty solid with a couple of beers they make that I like. The one Browner they make is great, but Anderson Valley with my number 3. Russian River's number 2, and number 1. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. The Brewery.
Yeah.
I was like, please say the right one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we can't leave that off the list.
No, we can't leave Brewery off of a top California brewery list. Yeah. Breweries. I mean, just the everything they do. I mean, there's nothing. I think in my cellar right now I have the last 5 or 6 years of the Christmas beers that they've done.
Everything they do, no matter how non-subtle it is.
Non-subtle?
Yeah.
I mean,
Non-subtle.
Southern Tier is subtle compared to the Brewery. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
The flavors they get without adjuncting is amazing.
Right. And and I mean, not to mention all the brewery that I've had anytime, sharing a bottle or two with Ryan at the Cloverleaf. I mean, he goes down his basement.
Always pulling one out of the basement.
I will say
he's probably got more brewery in his cellar at the Cloverleaf than brewery actually has left at the brewery of cellar beers.
It'd be a toss.
It's close.
They have a lot of weird, they have a lot of clubs and levels to their clubs and very reserved beer. And the Hoarders Club, I think, is the top tier. Mm-hmm. And I will say that we knew a guy who had a Hoarders Club membership, and he brought in. So a lot of people don't realize this is the Family Rue also has vineyards, and what they did is they had, and it was actually I think it was 56% Imperial Stout and 44% red wine.
Oh,
and red wine is an interesting thing because in a stout it's either really good or not good.
Right.
There's no medium. It's for some reason either really nails it or it's just completely off.
Right.
Yeah.
By far the best stout red wine.
Agreed.
Beverage I've ever had. It's
a delicious beer. Yeah. I'm going to throw really quick. I'm going to just tell you. There's a couple other ones. They were even beyond this, didn't make the cut, so to speak, and I just want to get them out there because the
California's a big state.
Brian just said that beer was bonkers. Yes, it absolutely was. But in any event, yeah, we can't leave them off. There's so many breweries in California. It's really tough to just do a top 3, right?
Well, I mean, San Diego alone. I mean, how many breweries are in San Diego?
Yeah, I mean, there's more breweries in San Diego than there is in New Jersey. I mean,
we left off Port Brewing.
Well, I was going to say Port, Green Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, yes.
Knee Deep's making good beer. The Rare Barrel.
Yeah,
the Rare Barrel. Yes,
really good. I've always said, speaking of San Diego classics, Mike Hess, been there as long as anyone.
Sure.
And even what's the other one on the island? Coronado. Fantastic.
Coronado. Yep.
Fantastic.
Coronado's fantastic. Yeah.
They were bought by Green Flash, but yet Alpine.
Yeah.
Right.
Years.
That was another great one. I always loved
it. Was such an amazing beer. Just 2 hops. Beautiful.
Yeah. I think there's one that flies under the radar a lot is Drake's in Oakland. Drake's has been there again a long time, just making quality beer the whole time.
Very good representing stuff too.
Yeah, representing that area. And Almanac. I like the
Almanac's makes amazing beer.
Yeah,
amazing beer.
And
we've got a lot of their bottles. Bert's a big fan of Almanac, so we do get a lot of that, and it's always good.
And none of us have yet to mention Lagunitas.
Yeah. Yeah. That was I said, that's been a lifelong love affair for me. Like I said, it was the first beer I drank. Like I said, little something. It was
little
something.
Like I said, personality wise, again, Lagunitas to me represents what beer cult they made a beer called Lagunitas Sucks because they ordered the wrong ingredients. And still made a beer, and it's delicious. And I think I like
it's a great beer. Lagunitas Sucks is a great beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole myth of the place is just, like I said, they've done a great job just keeping that as an interesting place to see exist. Lagunitas, like I said, has this this fantastical element to it that I think they harness well. Like I said, they also just make really good beer.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah, run up the coast, you get North Coast.
Yeah, North Coast.
North Coast. I mean,
Lost Coast. There's a lot of them up there, man.
You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with hello.
North Coast had that brown
Rasputin.
But raspy.
Yeah.
Or the what's the one?
Prankster.
Prankster's up there. Yeah.
Narwhal. Yeah, that was their stout. Yeah.
Narwhal. Yeah.
They crank them out there. Yeah, no, there's always more. It's always good to check in on that. Like I said, we've always looked to that. A lot of those breweries, like I said, if there was 3 breweries that we kind of use as guides, like I said, Sierra Nevada is one. Like I said, that's why everyone mentions them because they've done it the right way and they make great beer, every time. Modern times, they have this they do great stuff, but they don't take themselves that seriously. They really just this vibe where it's great beer, you can enjoy it.
They have a series of beers that they do barrel aging, and they won't tell you. They tell you what barrel it was aged in, but they don't tell you. In other words, they do something. They did something in a Buffalo Trace barrel, and they called it a beer aged in bovine outline barrels. They just play around with stuff, and it's just hilarious.
They appreciate that. They appreciate the fact of what they get to do. Like I said,
exactly.
It doesn't take it too seriously.
Dave mentioned North Coast. Yeah, Old Rasputin. I was the one I was thinking was Old Stock Ale. I mean, Old Ale is one of my an English Old Ale. Is one of my favorite styles. I mean, we were talking about styles before. I didn't get to mention it. One of the styles that fit into that. Tomave Pivos definitely is an undersung style, but I'm really happy about the fact that it's becoming not one. Because a lot of breweries are brewing them now, as well as Schwartz beers. I'm a self-proclaimed Schwartz beer whore.
Huge comeback, right?
I really am. But all beers and old ales, German alt beers and English old ales are.
Well, then you need a shtick.
Shtick alts, yeah.
Yeah.
And just Urige is one of my favorites, and I got to have most of it, not Dave, but in Portland, Maine. But that's besides the point. That's a story for another day.
We've only told it 3 times.
Well, yeah, but
New Zealand
these
Pilsner,
two.
that's another one I love.
There you go. What's that?
A New Zealand Pils. That's another
New Zealand Pils, sure, absolutely.
sub-style that I really love. Instead of, traditional, noble hops, they're just putting some kind of juicy New Zealand hops in the finish. And still, again, light, crushable, but lots of good flavor. That's a great style.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure, and in 5 years there'll be all kinds of other weird stuff we haven't even thought of yet.
Oh, definitely, and hopefully we make some of it.
And hopefully it stays away from being fruit puree crap stuff.
This is true.
Some of those sour seltzer friggin' things I've had recently.
Sour
Milkshake.
barrel-aged milkshake
They don't even
pastry
call it
seltzers.
milkshake anymore. They just call it sour, and it's like, okay, it's fruit puree with a shit ton of lactose in it, and it like pours like applesauce in a glass, and then you're like,
Ugh.
I like beer flavored beer. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's that's the kind of beer that you have to eat an entire bottle of Tums with.
Mhm.
You know, an entire
Hey,
bottle of
I
Tums
mean,
with.
no,
After
people
you,
like,
Right.
until people stop drinking it, they'll, breweries will keep making it. People are buying it.
exactly.
I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Before we close, we talked about before Dave brought it up really quick. Stone needs to sell, right? I mean, they have a loan that's being called, and they're looking for $464 million. They're looking like they have to sell, unless they get another investor in there, which, to be quite honest with you, most likely will happen. But yeah, that it's up in the air. I mean, that's a huge brewery that it's big news. That Stone might have to actually sell.
Iconic brewery.
Sure, it's ridiculous. And I did want to bring this up really quick too. Some of us actually talked about this morning. Well, 3 of the 4 of us talked about this morning. Yesterday on Instagram, this was posted. I'll throw this up, and I'll explain it for those of you that are just listening to the audio podcast. Sam Adams Summer Ale. It said, "Summer is here."
It said first day of spring.
It literally was the first full day of spring they released Sam Adams Summer Ale.
Hashtag nailed it.
Okay,
Seasonal drift.
it's insane.
Yeah.
And I told the story too. I mean, Nick, what do you think of that? What do you think of the? I mean, seasonal creep. Obviously, there's some overlap. You got to do that. I get it.
Yeah.
But what do you think about the first full day of spring releasing a Summer Ale?
Yeah.
And I get it. It's Sam Adams. It's not. It's not Last Wave. It's not Coastal. It's not anybody else. It's Sam Adams, right? I mean, they can do what they want, right? Jim Cook can write the law himself. But what do you think of that?
I mean, it's always one of those weird things. Like, there's a time and a place for everything. And like, as a bigger brewery, you have to factor in, like I said, just how much you got to get out there to have it all in place where it needs to be. March is probably a little too early, though. Like I said, I've seen a few of those signs up, like you said, and it's like, with some people have an Oktoberfest, right after the 4th of July now. It's
Right.
It's interesting,
but even the Oktoberfest, I don't mind. It's the pumpkin beer right after July 4th.
Oh, I thought that was releasing April this year.
Who the hell
It's coming
wants
in. That's next.
beer
Next
in
week,
August
pumpkin's coming in.
in the like that doesn't strike like
Yeah, I'll drink a Marzen. I'll
Christmas
drink.
market is a thing, but shit, that's
Who wants clothes in August?
Exactly. I mean, like I'm true to them. If you're making a pumpkin ale, that's all well and good. Knock yourself out. You do that, but September, please, September. Dogfish Head, and Dave brought it up like earlier in one group we're in. Dogfish Head Pumpkin. The last couple of years they did release it in August, but for forever they were straight. I mean, it was after Labor Day weekend. That beer did not come out until after Labor Day weekend every year.
Yeah,
And that's Dogfish Head, right? Obviously, last couple of years they're
they're
Sam
not.
Adams Dogfish Head, so obviously it comes out earlier now, right? So, but in any event, it's just ridiculous. And I told the story too. In another lifetime, if you will, running a bar, I went to order, and I had ordered a couple of kegs of Sam Adams Winter Ale, and of course it comes out in October, right? Like any good winter ale, it should come out in the middle of fall, right?
Yeah.
But I went to order another half barrel of it the first week in December. The distributor was out of it, and I mean completely out of it in kegs, half barrel sixtels, and cases. Had no more winter ale. So 2.5 weeks before winter actually started, they were out of winter ale.
That's tough. That's a tough break.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's it's the whole like again rush first to market this that.
right.
It's like that's why I like craft breweries because at least the craft breweries are putting those beers on when they're seasonally appropriate. So,
Yeah, no, like I said, we've always enjoyed that. Like I said, like again, not to go back to Sierra Nevada one more time, but like Celebration Ale is one of my favorite beer. Like me and Bert, as soon as it comes, like that's when like the whispers come, like you go right to the liquor store and you grab a 12 pack of it. Like, and then when I go home, see my dad, like there's a 12 pack. Like that is universally, if you had to ask me one of my favorite beers of all time, or if I had to only drink one beer, it might be Celebration Ale. Fantastic beer.
actually, another California brewery, but Anchor with their Merry Christmas, Happy New Year every year.
Anchor with Merry Christmas, Happy New Year is a great
Yeah,
beer.
I get it.
Absolutely.
Every year I try to
Yeah.
get a pack of that,
Yeah,
and
Merry Christmas is always a good one.
it's always different every year, which is kind of cool too, But I drink some of it, I sit on some of it. That beer ages really well.
Yeah. But like we try to keep that too. Like for us, Board Breaker comes out the week of Thanksgiving every year. That's a spiced Belgian
It's a
ale.
Magnum from 6 years ago. So.
Oh man. Yeah, like I said, Board Breaker comes out every Thanksgiving before the Thanksgiving break. It comes out that week. And it always does well. And we could probably move it up. People start asking about it in October. But like it's kind of like, you want to set those boundaries for it because it really just makes an experience.
Right.
So between Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve, Board Breaker is one of the best selling beers we have because it just it fills up that moment. We do the same thing with like Surfer's Blood to kick off the summer.
I feel like I haven't had Board Breakers now. I feel really like I missed it because I need.
It's like we try to keep that seasonality because there's something fun about having those, like keeping them in that moment. So like when you come back around to that season, like, yeah, okay, it's January, we're gonna have defroster now. Like it kind of gives people this weird, like we as a brewery, we keep 5 beers on tap, the same 5 beers on tap all the time.
Sure.
Core beers.
Like I said, which is not something you're necessarily seeing that many of. Like I said, we always have stout. We say dark beer all year. A stout and a coconut porter are always available. A pale ale, a lager, and a couple IPAs. Those are always going to be available. You can always count on that. But then throughout the season, like, oh, it's this season. This is when Dawn Patrol comes out, or this is when our Oktoberfest comes out, or like I said, Board Breaker, or some of these different. We've kind of started this. Actually, every year we've been open, Icarus and us have done a collaboration for the holidays.
And we love Jay and those guys down there.
Yeah.
Sure.
So like, that's always been something fun, and people look forward to that now because every year it's like one time it was like cocktail inspired, and we kind of challenge ourselves to do something different. We've never done a white chocolate stout or whatever white stout until this past year.
That's cool.
We tried that as like, we did like different cookies. One we actually designed where you were supposed to get both and pour them together to blend a beer, like a cuvee. That was kind of our COVID idea. We couldn't get together. It was like make 2 beers that complement each other. You can blend to. It was we did like a brut orange IPA, and they did like a decadent chocolate stout, like chocolate covered orange.
Chocolate covered orange.
Nice.
We do that. So like we've kind of cultivated that. Every December you can expect something from Icarus and Last Wave, and it's been a lot of fun for us both to like really kind of think up some different stuff and kind of like experiment. And it's been kind of the guys are just getting together for the holidays.
And I mean that's kind of the antithesis of trying to be that first to market with a style. Is no, we're gonna do something cool, and you guys know it's coming out around this time. So get always anticipation build, and then you guys can get it when it's ready.
Yeah, no, that's great. Like I said, it is about the moment for us. We want to enjoy the moment. Like it's good to set those things up. Or like you said, like it's a part of the seasons. Like we change with the seasons. Like the seasons of the Jersey Shore are very distinct. And they're all beautiful in their own way. So like we kind of want to change with those flavors and the emotions. Like I said, when it gets dark here and cold in January, like you want a couple darker, heavier beers. That's the only time we really make those 8-9% beers. And then as the summer comes on, like we want to drink lighter beers and want to, like I said, just change with the seasons. Don't fight it. Just kind of like flow with it. And that's you're gonna have the right beer in front of the right people at the right time. Then.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Before we wrap up, anything else you want to let anybody know about anything, other than what you already have, obviously? A release coming out this weekend, something happening in the short term.
So you'll have all the info on the 5th anniversary on all your social media channels.
Yeah. Well, we'll hopefully get some stuff out there. Like I said, we're starting to plan it and really trying to, like, the next couple of weeks, trying to figure out what's possible, what we can do that's interesting, and what beers we're going to have ready. But it's going to be a good time. Like I said, that's kind of what we like to do down there. So other than that, just thanks for everybody out there drinking good beer and keeping it local. Like I said, it's an inspiration to us. Like that's the best part of it, is getting to see people enjoy it. So, that for me has been very rewarding. Like I said, I always say, working at a brewery, owning a brewery, it's not necessarily always fun, but it's always rewarding. It's always rewarding to see people, enjoy something you get to had a hand in making. So thank you to everybody that
when they put a glass in their mouth and then they smile afterwards. That makes everything worth it, right?
Man, it's like I said, it's cool to get to see people hang out and enjoy something, respectfully, and that's part of why we do it. It's a big part of why we do it. So thank you.
All right. Awesome. All right, Nick, thanks for coming on. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna do the outro, but we'll talk after we sign off.
John, before you go to the outro, I'm actually going to sign off. I got to help my daughter pack.
You got it. Go do what you got to do. Samurai, thank you for joining us tonight.
Matt,
thanks for filling in.
No problem. Cheers.
All right.
And for anyone who has not been to Last Wave, feel free, if you have the kids, take them down, hit the boardwalk. There's all the rides.
Absolutely.
Go hit one of the really nice restaurants.
Yeah, great shopping, all that.
Great seafood in Point Pleasant. The beach is there. And have a good beer.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And that's the important part. Take part. I mean, the whole community right there in Point Pleasant. And a lot of people don't realize too, even in the off season, if you will. All right, Point Pleasant on up, from Point Pleasant, literally from Point Pleasant on up north in New Jersey. They're not barrier islands. They don't close during the winter. They're not barren. Everywhere south, pretty much, but as far as right on the beach goes, from Point Pleasant north, they're regular suburban towns that just happen to be next to the beach. They have a whole thing going on all year round. So
we got a lot of friends down here. It's a good time. Like I said, any time of year you come by, we're going to be doing something. Like I said, we're not always just focused on the summer. We're always looking at how we can have a good time together. Like I said, any time of year, we try to keep it interesting, and that's what keeps us going. So we're going to keep doing that. Like I said, this was never about being a millionaire or being big. It's just about, having a good time and getting to enjoy, what you get to do. And we do that for sure.
It's about the beer is what it's about.
Yeah. So, cheers.
So there you go. Cheers.
Done here.
All right.
Cheers.
You got it. Cheers. All right. On that note, like I said, stay right where you are. On that note, we'll wrap the show for today. We want to thank everyone for watching. And for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.lagerroom.com. That's LAGEROOM.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and, of course, our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Lager Room. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Tuesday night around 6:30 Eastern Time. And for those of you that want to just listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, and iHeartRadio as well. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend. Drink a lot of beer, but drink responsibly, and we will talk to you soon, folks. Take care. Cheers.
Cheers.